Tom Cotton's town hall packed to capacity tonight. Hundreds of people were turned away. It was so crowded. The crowd even became somewhat rowdy, as you just heard people booing there as the senator was trying to answer questions from the audience.
Of course, we have team coverage on the town hall meeting tonight. So we have Kelly Johnson and Katie Davidson live for us in Springdale. Senator Tom Cotton had a full day of events before making his final stop there in Springdale and speaking to a crowd of more than 2,000 people. 4029's Kelly Johnson was there for the whole thing and talked to the senator as well. She joins us live now. Kelly?
Hi guys, good evening. Yeah, tonight I think was a way for a lot of people to let off some steam, get out their anger at the Republican Party as a whole, President Donald Trump, and also Senator Tom Cotton. As you mentioned, this auditorium here in Springdale holds 2,200 people. It was a Wednesday afternoon. It was packed to capacity. Hundreds of people were turned away. Now, you could tell by a lot of the questions people were asking inside of the event and by some of the signs they were holding, there were supporters of Senator Tom Cotton here tonight, but the overwhelming majority were those who were opposed to him, and they were very vocal about it.
Background checks in place now, and any firearms dealer has to undergo.
We have a vetting process for refugees. Can't we have it for people who want to buy a gun?
And
it took Senator Tom Cotton almost 2 hours to get through not even 20 audience questions because of the constant interruption.
I am always going to do what I think is best for our Kansans. That doesn't matter if it's Mitch McConnell's.
Let him answer, please.
Senator Cotton spoke to us minutes before the event in anticipation of this tough crowd tonight. He says he likes to listen to people's concerns in hopes of finding the next good solution.
But someone, I'm sure, that will say something tonight at this event that'll point me to legislation or to an idea or to a letter or to a phone call that I might not otherwise know about.
Questions he took tonight ranged from immigration reform to the president not releasing his tax returns. But one of the issues that drew the most time and attention was the Affordable Care Act.
Will you commit to replacements in the same way that you have committed to the repeal?
For that and many other questions, Senator Cotton's answers didn't satisfy the majority. For all of those numerous issues met with loud contention, Cotton said this.
If I get in a position, like any elected official, if I get in a position where 2/3 of our Kansans agree with me, that's a great position to be in. That means that a million Arkansans still disagree. And the answer to that is elections. And if you don't like the positions I've taken, then you don't vote for me. That's the best I can do for you.
Maybe not the answers everyone was looking for, but it's the answer he was able to give tonight nonetheless. Now, as rowdy as you saw it got in there, the good news is we talked to Springdale Police. They didn't make any arrests and say there were no incidents tonight. Reporting live in Springdale, Kelly Johnson, 4029 News.
Good job, Kelly. Thank you. The town hall meeting lasted about 2 hours.
It did, and the town hall changed locations actually 3 times to try to accommodate the crowds. But tonight's large venue still not large enough to accommodate the crowd there tonight. In fact, hundreds of people were turned away.
That is right. Tonight, those people were upset that they didn't get inside to hear Senator Cotton talk and ask him some questions.
We have 4029's Katie Davidson, who spoke with those people. She's live for us tonight. Katie?
Well, it was roughly 5:20 when the doors closed tonight, and officers told people in line there was just no more room. Hundreds were left to stand on the sidewalk outside Springdale High School and watch the town hall from their phones.
It felt like being shut out. Absolutely being shut out of a meeting that I feel like as a taxpayer I have a right to be in.
Hundreds of people were left to sit or stand on the sidewalks of Springdale High School after they were told the auditorium had hit capacity.
Part of me is disappointed I wasn't able to make it in, but really I'm just thrilled to see so many people actively engaged in this issue.
People came from across the state.
So we brought a bus up of about 18 people
to hear from the senator.
I wanted to make sure that we actually saw and heard him talk about the realities of what's going on, the ACA, the appointments, everything that's happening. I really want to hear his perspective.
As he spoke throughout the night, the crowd responded with cheers and boos. We spoke with many people who had mixed responses about how tonight's town hall went.
He's not really specifically answering questions when we ask yes or no. He can't seem to do that.
Some were frustrated.
I'm not getting assurances from much.
Others were hopeful.
I'm just hoping that he will walk away
having been influenced in some way.
But others agreed with Cotton's statements throughout the night and believed he would take these thoughts back with him to Washington.
I believe he's going to take what he has heard from the people tonight and just take that back to, Congress and to Washington and let them know, what the people are concerned about here.
Well, both inside or out, it was a mixed bag of emotions here in Springdale tonight. Some told us they're hopeful that Senator Cotton will take the messages here tonight to heart. Others fear things will stay the same. Live in Springdale, Katie Davidson, 4029 News.